welcome to Wrestling Chat with Friends, our Tuesday show. Thank you for the pleasure of your time. I am EJ the Collector. I'm here every week, most weeks, joined by my tag team partner, Bork Laser. Laser Bork, you had to explain it to me, but uh, TG, you're here tonight. Explain the laser for those at home that may not have gotten it and didn't understand my really terrible explanation.
A popular internet meme from several years ago with a picture of Brock Lesnar when he was in college, sort of his headshot, part of the Minnesota wrestling team, and it's just him in a coat and tie with glasses on, and then just Bork Laser in big
Is
letters.
is that handle a tease to something we're going to talk about a little bit later on
I mean, I
in
think so.
in the
I
show,
think he's
perhaps?
yeah.
Well, we're really glad y'all are all here joining us tonight. Wherever you're joining us, I hope you're staying warm. I'm sure it's cold everywhere. RVA, where I'm from, is cold. Northern Virginia, where Tom is cold. It's been a cold week for everybody, but we're
It's
here.
going to be 15 here tonight. 15.
It's like same here. And man, that's balmy compared to some places we saw playing football over the weekend. Those are some wild scenes. But we're going to talk Royal Rumble tonight. We're doing that a couple weeks early because we may not have a show next Tuesday, or we might have another guest on next week. We're still trying to put that together to talk about that Hardywood show that's coming February 2nd to Hardywood Brewery in Richmond, Virginia. We're going to have, hopefully, the promoter, and we'll talk that if we're able to do a show. But Tom is here tonight. We're going to talk WrestleMania, give some reviews, predictions on the show coming 2 weeks from now.
We're going to talk Royal Rumble, just to be clear.
God, thank you. Tropicana Field, it's the second time Tropicana Field has hosted the Royal Rumble, but the first time is to be hosting it with fans because that was they moved. Am I correct? They moved the Thunderdome to Tropicana Field in 2020, 21, 20.
Yeah.
For the Royal Rumble there. Won by, do you remember?
20 or 21. So was it Drew McIntyre?
Nope. Edge. That was the Edge match. Yeah. Edge came back, won it. Never did he. Don't remember who he challenged for the world title at WrestleMania, but I don't think
it was Roman Reigns. He wound up in a three-way with Bryan Danielson.
That's right.
Daniel Bryan.
Bryan Danielson.
And they got smashed and stacked, as you recall.
They did. I do remember that now. That match, that Royal Rumble also. No. Oh yeah, that Royal Rumble also featured in the main event outside the Rumble matches. That was the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens I Quit match. If you remember those.
I do remember that because now it's coming back to me because they were like backstage is the wrong word, but they were doing stuff around Tropicana Field.
Yeah, isn't that the one where
there was a golf cart? I remember there was a
golf cart. I think Roman handcuffed Kevin Owens to something and beat him down or something like that.
Yeah,
a couple years ago. But this one is shaping up well. We've had a bunch of participants being named, and we'll get to all of them. Well, there's only 4 matches announced as of right now. We do have a go home show for the Royal Rumble next week on Raw, which I bet we'll get maybe another match, perhaps coming out of there. But those two now that they have a women's Royal Rumble match, those 2 matches take up half to a little over half the show.
Yeah.
So with only 4 scheduled right now, I bet they mix in maybe a women's match, maybe something else going into the show. But let's get into this pay-per-view, man. Royal Rumbles, they are considered one of the top 4. I think over the last several years, it's become, I think it's right up there with SummerSlam. It might even be the number 2. Do you consider Royal Rumble number 2 or number 3 in the big 4 of their pay-per-views?
I'd say 3. I'd say SummerSlam's bigger, but yeah.
SummerSlam's been put on in like baseball stadiums for longer than I guess Royal Rumble has. Royal Rumble, though, I guess this has just as long a history as well with SummerSlam too. I kind of see them as kind of like 2A and 2B. I kind of like Royal Rumble more than SummerSlam usually, just because of like what the Royal Rumble match usually can provide you with surprises, returns. This will also be the first Royal Rumble, yes, under the Paul Levesque administration. So we'll see, how his style may differ from Royal Rumbles of years past. But there are two matches we want to talk to before we get into the two Royal Rumbles. One is as a result of the U.S. title tournament that they had over the past several weeks, Kevin Owens emerged as the number one contender on the SmackDown brand for the U.S. title, and he will go against someone who has yet to defend his title, the wildly popular Logan Paul. Um, Logan was destined to hold this title. I think we called it for a long time beforehand. And I didn't see Kevin Owens necessarily coming out of this tournament as the champ, as the winner and the contender, but he is that. They have yet to really confront each other that much, but they are going to square off. Probably there won't be the opening match in the card, I bet. But Logan Paul, who's promoted that title everywhere pretty much except inside a WWE ring, he's had it. He tried to get it pawned. He had some influencers wearing it. He took it skiing when he was recently, but he hasn't been defending it yet. And he's going against, arguably one of the toughest guys in WWE, Kevin Owens. Do you like this matchup? Is there a different matchup you would have rather seen? And what are your thoughts and predictions on this U.S. title match?
It'll be a good match because obviously Kevin Owens is a really interesting character and worker. Logan Paul, as we've talked about many times, is extremely talented. I don't think there's any doubt that Logan Paul retains, at least as far as I'm concerned. I mean, unless something very unexpected happens on SmackDown this week that introduces somebody else into the mix that might set up a WrestleMania match, I think it's Logan Paul easily, without question.
Easily, without question. Pins him clean as a sheet, huh?
I don't know about that. I just mean the outcome. I think it's extremely likely that Logan Paul retains this.
No doubt about it. I think if you're this close to WrestleMania and you've got Logan Paul holding a title and he's got that sort of influence that he's got around the world, you want to have him in the biggest position possible for him at that time, and that is probably him holding the title. I certainly probably expect some shenanigans. Yeah, I'd say Logan Paul. I hope this match is exciting. It's going to have some, Logan Paul's capable of big spots. Kevin Owens is capable of big spots. So we'll see what kind of spots they can bring. Do you like Kevin Owens more as a face, or do you prefer his heel persona?
He's one of those rare guys who's really good at both. I think that he is probably better served being a heel in terms of how high on the card he can go and how far his career can go. I think selfishly, I like him as a face because he's so naturally funny. And he's funny in a way that I don't think a lot of guys, even good performers, are in WWE. And so, again, selfishly, I like to see him as a face because he can tap into that unique or fairly unique comedic aspect of his skill set. But I think that he comes across as much more of a legitimate world champion contender when he's a heel, I think. But at least that's how they presented him up to this point.
I'm glad you said that he's presented as a heel, sometimes best as a world championship contender. With the talent roster they have right now, which is stacked, and there even are a couple of folks who could be making returns, who have returned recently, like your Randy Ortons. Some folks who may be returning at the Royal Rumble. A guy like Sheamus comes to mind, who's been out for a long time. There's also Bork Laser, who may be returning anytime soon. With that roster, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes. With that roster, is the U.S. title picture sort of maybe Kevin Owens' ceiling for the time being? Do you see him maybe as a credible world championship title contender, presuming he doesn't capture the title in 2 weeks? Or
I mean, the obvious problem that he has and anyone else has on SmackDown is that, barring a Royal Rumble win where they cross brands to challenge for the world title that Seth Rollins has, the problem is that the world champion on that show is a guy who is involved in a very carefully scripted storyline that has been going on now for 3.5 years. Yeah. And so let's think about what just happened on Raw as a counterpoint. Somebody like Jinder Mahal, albeit somewhat, if you're Tony Khan, somewhat controversial, But someone like Jinder Mahal can be, microwaved up. You can hype it the fact that he used to be WWE champion. He can get a title shot in the main event of Monday Night Raw, and it's not crazy. At least in my opinion, it's not crazy. But then you can plug in different. There's a number of guys, Shinsuke Nakamura or other guys on Raw that you can just kind of plug in, and they can get a legitimate push and get a title shot. With Roman Reigns, there's no scenario where anyone other than a very short list of people, and there might only be 2 names on that list, maybe 1 name, is going, barring some kind of injury or some other outside intervening, superseding factor, is going to take the title off him. And at least right now. And so the problem that Owens runs into is maybe he gets a title shot, but to what end? He's not going to be the guy who takes the title off of Roman after 3+ years. And so I think that him being in you asked the question, is that his ceiling? In a way, yes, but it's also, I think, that title picture is a better place for him to be right now, because there isn't even though I said he's definitely going to lose on this particular show, there isn't the narrow, inevitable path that you have if you are the person who happens to be feuding with Roman Reigns at a given moment. Now, there's ways to freshen that up, and they're trying to do that with a fatal 4-way. But still, I mean, just like when LA Knight was getting his brief push to the main event, I think that there wasn't anybody outside of the deepest, most loyal LA Knight fan who thought that LA Knight had a chance to win. So
yeah, this questioning we get revisited every once in a while is, is this 3.5-year run as historic and at times the single most exciting story in the business? Is this beginning to have a law of diminishing returns for some of the reasons you cited? Like lack of a realistic belief that a title could change hands at a given pay-per-view. He's run through everybody. I wouldn't say it's stale, because there is still an intriguing and compelling story with the Bloodline and with Paul Heyman and with any number of contenders, but it has this run which seems like it's maybe one angle would be, are they trying to reach a certain milestone again where they're trying to bring him higher up on the all-time wins list? Hogan's would be sometime in the summertime. Is it? And we're on the cusp of, and again, titles are going. The run's going to end eventually, and it seems like it may eventually end sooner than later if you sort of read the tea leaves, perhaps. But has this? I guess I'm asking: is it time? Is it the right time for Roman to sort of give back, drop the title, just so the SmackDown brand can get a little bit of a freshen up? Because for a long time, SmackDown was the A show, certainly during the majority of the Bloodline storyline. Now it feels very much like Raw is the main show over SmackDown.
I don't think so, just from the standpoint of, I think that the pressure point that you just identified definitely exists, but I think that was the rationale behind the creation of the World Heavyweight Championship. And so the idea is you don't have a world title on the men's side that's being defended at every show, every major show, or every pay-per-view, but that's okay now because we have this other title. A year and a half ago, different story, different calculus. I think, it's funny because I think some people criticize the way that they use Roman Reigns and his lack of appearances on a lot of shows. In fact, I saw a report today or yesterday that pointed out that he's going to be at the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
He's not going to be in Perth. He's going to be in WrestleMania. He's not going to be in Backlash. And then he's going to be on a Saudi show this summer and SummerSlam. And so his schedule over the next several months is very light. And my sort of counter argument to a lot of the people who take issue with that is, not only do you have this other world title now that you can use as a showpiece in your major PLEs, but also the inevitability problem that we just talked about, to me, is an argument in favor of having him work this limited schedule. Because if he were showing up on every single one of these PLEs and defending his title like Seth has defended his title, I think that at that point starts to become the inevitability factor starts to become a problem on a number of fronts. Right now, I'm okay with where they are, but to your point, I think that this has been a 3.5 year odyssey that certainly it has reached heights in the past that it is not currently achieving.
Yep.
But I also think that is, again, a storyline that drags on this long, and probably shouldn't say drag because that sounds negative, but a storyline that lasts this long is inevitably going to have peaks and valleys. The key for me is what happens at the Royal Rumble, because to me, as much as we are talking today about how well it's maybe a little bit of a down period for this, the bloodline storyline is a bit stale. The day after the Royal Rumble, I might be saying it's the hottest thing in WWE again, like instantaneously. And there are obviously a few ways where that could come about. So we shall see. But I think it's definitely a bit of a lull, but the Rumble could revitalize it.
So Roman's been working a, not limited schedule, but he's not regular like Seth Rollins, who's been the workhorse. That's done by design. Roman's been the number one guy basically for the last few years. All of his fights feel like big time fights, and some of that has to do with the fact that you don't see him every week. You don't see him even every pay-per-view. His appearances are special, and it gives a lot of gravitas to his fights. With that schedule that was announced, I saw that too. No Elimination Chamber, no Backlash. He's obviously going to work Saudi because that's what Saudi wants, and he's going to work SummerSlam. Is this time off? Like, he hasn't, at least it seems like he's not doing any other projects. We're not seeing him going even away for a few weeks to film a movie. He doesn't appear to have any injuries. If he works the schedule, say through SummerSlam, and there's not like, what else is he doing? Do you think he's just getting a rest? Do you think he's fielding offers? Like that seems like that he's bound to follow Dwayne to Hollywood. Like that doesn't seem like it's gotten any traction. And I don't know all the details. I can't speak for anything, but I don't see him. There's no really like talk about him in the entertainment industry outside of wrestling. Like if he's taken this schedule, is this just if he loses at WrestleMania and the story gets completed and these two announced matches are, maybe a rematch with the champion or somewhere else, what is he going to be doing? Where do you see him, if he's taking his time off, maybe until Royal Rumble next year when he may return? Do you think this is the beginning of like him breaking away from WWE, or is this just a break for, hey, 3 and 4 years now? Have you've been our top guy? Go have the summer off. Go have 6-7 months off. I don't see the market craving more Roman outside of SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there are a lot of things that are potential explanations for that. I think that part of it could be a desire to work more in Hollywood. Part of it could simply be the last time his contract was up, Roman went to them and said, look, whether for physical reasons or otherwise, I don't want to be on the road as much as I have been. The other potential explanation is if you have Roman Reigns as someone who only appears on TV rarely, then perhaps as you are in the process of negotiating rights deals, that becomes a bargaining chip in one way or another.
Rights deals
so
kind of the center of all of this.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of explanations for it. I think that we'll have a much better sense of what his future looks like after WrestleMania, and if he's still the champion after WrestleMania, which I think is entirely possible, then I think that it's sort of status quo for another, probably one more year, and then not sure. I think that if he loses the title, maybe there's a rematch of some kind or something at SummerSlam, and then I think it'll be a long time before you see him again. I think he'll be like Brock. He'll be like Brock, a guy who he wrestles a couple of big matches during that sort of cycle from Rumble through SummerSlam, and then you don't see him for a long time after that, and that'll be Roman.
Some of that's because Brock is that kind of attraction and star, and Roman, I think, fits that bill now too. And part of it is because Brock doesn't like people, and as soon as he's done, he wants to go to Canada and just hunt and be by himself, And I don't see Roman quite like that. But let's not overlook, Roman leaving Tampa with his title, because he has a fatal 4-way at the Royal Rumble, the next announced match versus interesting combo: Randy Orton, LA Knight, and sort of a resurgent AJ Styles. AJ was gone for a while, had a few injuries. Creative probably didn't have something great for him for a while, the mix of those two, but he's back, and he is thrown right back into the main event world title picture, where he should be. AJ has been one of the best wrestlers in the last 25 years. He's been in WWE for like 11 years now or something like that. Some crazy long number that's longer than I would think. It's like the longest run of his career anywhere. Longer than his TNA run, or just about as long. LA Knight's been arguably one of the hottest faces in the last 8, 9, 10 months. Did you catch any of his interview on Chris Van Vliet earlier this week?
Just a couple of clips.
Sound bites
clips from it. I usually, when I don't follow Chris Van Vliet, I don't subscribe to him on YouTube, so I never really look at his whole interviews, but his like little clips from his interviews are almost always like suggestions that pop up, and depending on what the topic is and the guest, I'll watch them.
Yeah, and you sort of sent something out to the group page with a compilation of all the things that LA Knight has done, like in media the last several years. And man, I mean, he's done infomercials, he's done guest spots on network comedy shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he's done reality shows. I did not know he was that hard of a worker in the entertainment industry. Did you?
I mean, that's one way to put it. I knew that he had basically come to LA originally to be an actor, and so he did took a lot of different sorts of jobs that in hindsight are, it's good, honest work, but in hindsight, it's funny to see him as like someone who is reenacting some crime or being eaten by a pet lizard, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
If you didn't know that LA Knight had that career, go to YouTube, Google, LA Knight compilation entertainment. You'll find all the stuff he's done. And the other member, the third member, the fourth member in that, along with Roman, LA, and AJ, is another returning resurgent Randy Orton, the Apex Predator, one of my favorite wrestlers in the last 20 years. Probably, I was looking back at, some of the titles he's held, the feuds he's been in. He is as big a wrestling star as there's been over 20 years. I mean, it's almost sort of underappreciated a little bit when you compare him to some of his contemporaries like John Cena and Brock Lesnar. But man, that guy always delivers. And I always think about what I think it was Ric Flair or Triple H said about Randy Orton. If you're going to build a WWE superstar from scratch, you would build Randy Orton. And like, hard to argue. So these four guys, I'm hoping this is a show stealer. These four guys all know how to tear it up between, AJ's ability, even at, his advanced age. Randy can absolutely dominate whenever he wants. LA Knight is like the fresh face. And of course, the Bloodline Chief. I think the result of this is maybe fait accompli. Roman probably walks away with the title, but how do you see this one going down? Who do you think is the one who eats the pin? How does it go? Is Roman the one who's gonna, how is Roman gonna finish somebody off?
I think that two things are interesting to me about this match. I think the outcome is a given, as you just said. I think the first thing is, it seems very likely that the outcome of this match will lead to WrestleMania matches. And the question is, does it go to sort of the obvious one here is AJ Styles and LA Knight, because they've already had some interplay in the weeks leading up to this. And I think that would be a really good match for LA Knight to have in a sort of a showcase with an established, very, very accomplished wrestler who is, as you said, I mean, I think if there's a list of guys in the last 20 years who are better in the ring than AJ Styles, that's an extremely short list.
Yeah.
I think, on the other hand, what I'm really curious about is how healthy is Randy Orton? They have been understandably extremely protective of him. So to answer your question, he's definitely not going to eat the pin, and that's by design. They want to save him for something else down the road, possibly with Roman. Although if Roman's not in Perth, I don't know when that match would be, unless it's Saudi Arabia or something, or SummerSlam. But I am curious to see how Randy Orton will do once they give him a singles match, and leading up to that, specifically about this match, how he will be used in this match. So far, what we have seen is a guy who looks like, completely understandably, is easing his way back into full-time action.
18 months out of the ring.
Yeah. Totally get it, especially given the nature of the injury.
Yeah, AJ was gone. AJ was gone for 6 months with an ankle injury. That's different than 18 months with a neck injury.
Right, and I also think with AJ, part of that was deliberate. Like, I think he could have come back earlier if he had wanted to, or they had needed him. They waited for the right time to bring him back. Whereas Randy, I sort of, and this is kind of what I'm getting at, I feel like it might be the opposite of that, meaning not that he rushed back, but that he needed every bit of those 18 months to get back to this point because of the nature of his injury. So I think that this is going to be an interesting match to see, how Randy does in this kind of environment. So far, I think he's only had 2 matches. One was at Survivor Series, and one was a tag match, I think. And then to see where they go from here with him, because if the plan, I think it's safe to say the plan is not for him to take on Roman at WrestleMania for the title. I thought that the main event of Perth would be Orton versus Roman Reigns for the title. If Roman's not at Perth, I think, and I don't know. I don't know.
Perth, we're talking about Elimination Chamber, the pay-per-view right before WrestleMania. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, Elimination Chamber in Australia. So, so those are the 2 things I'm looking for. I think the outcome of the match is a given.
Who's going to, between LA Knight and AJ Styles, who do you think? And I think between leaving it down to those 2, one of them is going to take the pin, which probably means there'll be some interaction with the 2 of them, which Roman will capitalize on, which will then forward a potential LA Knight, AJ Styles. Hey, we haven't settled our beef yet because Roman came in, and that would be an easy thing to carry into WrestleMania if your plan is LA Knight and AJ Styles, and I think that makes a lot of sense. We talked about it a little bit while ago. Was that a WrestleMania match that we would love to see, and that we thought for a while was maybe inevitable, was Logan Paul and LA Knight at WrestleMania, with the possibility of giving LA Knight his first singles title. I mean, they've pushed him extremely hard. He got the world title shot. We knew he wasn't going to get it, but that U.S. title is sort of like what they typically give wrestlers who are right there, ready to be the next main event contender. But as it stands right now, we don't know what's going to happen with Paul and Owens, but Paul's probably going to win. But it doesn't seem like Paul and LA Knight have a clear path to each other right now. So things can obviously change over the course of one show, but it doesn't seem like it's being drawn out to have. It looks like you're right that AJ and LA Knight are going to still have beef after this Royal Rumble Fatal 4-Way, which may end up in Perth, and I guess it could still come about. But we're not that far away from beginning to like plant seeds for WrestleMania. What do you think? Do you think we may still eventually get?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes out of the Royal Rumble that will probably dictate where these guys are going to match up. And if there's somebody who doesn't have an obvious dance partner that's been hinted at in the weeks leading up to where we are now, I think that it's very much TBD. In terms of what happens with Logan Paul at WrestleMania, there's a number of ways it could go, but it's too soon to say for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like this. I don't want to just keep discounting Elimination Chamber because definitely things can happen. Titles can change leading to WrestleMania, but typically your main singles titles aren't going to change right before WrestleMania. They're going to change at WrestleMania. Let's move on to the women's Royal Rumble match. As of right now, which I predict, and because it's done it before, I predict that will open the show. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think? Women's Royal Rumble matches have opened the Rumbles before.
I think it might be Owens and Logan
Owens and
Paul.
Paul, perhaps. Who knows? As of right now, Bayley, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair. They're all involved in fairly major storylines right now. That room will be filled with your Natalias, your Maxine Dupree's, anyone you can think of who's kind of on the roster. Let's talk about first possible returns. Who would you like to see return, and who do you think will return at WrestleMania? And I'll say return debut in the same category, unless you want to split.
I think Liv Morgan will come back. Yep. I think there's a pretty good chance that Trinity Fatu will come back
as Naomi.
Naomi, yeah,
as Naomi, I guess,
for sure, as Naomi. In the past, I have been very high on the idea that Sasha Banks, her return was going to be imminent. I don't know if they would do it here, though, because I don't think she's going to win. And it feels like they would do it at a point where, so as I've said before, the thing that I think eventually is going to happen will be Bayley is very clearly moving to a point where she is going to get the boot from Damage Control. They are going to turn on her. Dakota Kai is going to be revealed as sort of this puppet master. And then, the Japanese contingent will stay with Dakota Kai, and that will be Damage Control moving forward, the group that, Bayley started. And Bayley will go away for a little bit, she'll come back as a face, and then reunite with the four horsewomen, including Sasha, and they will take on Damage Control at some point. Now, because of Charlotte Flair's injury, it seems now like that would lend itself more to getting drawn out a bit and being pushed maybe to the main event of Survivor Series or something like that, which is a long way off at this point. But I just think if Sasha Banks is going to come back, I don't know. What I would be worried about would be if she is coming back.
Let's just say the internet has her going to AEW.
I think the internet the internet seems to like AEW and have some wishful thinking about AEW. So anytime there's something that's could go either way, they will tend to, I think, err on the side of AEW. I don't know. I think she's going to come back, but maybe not. But here's the point: if she comes back, I would not have her come back on this particular show because her coming back would be a big enough of a deal that I would want her to be the primary focus, not the. I mean, I don't think she would even be in the top 4 things that would happen on the show even if she came back. So I would. Is it possible if she comes back at Royal Rumble? No, it's not impossible. But I think that would be maybe misguided. I don't know about what Sonya Deville. I don't know if her status is.
Well, I know
Liv
Morgan was, saw Natalya posted on her Instagram that I saw Liv Morgan was training at the dungeon with Natalya. And I think Sonya was there, but she wasn't. I mean, yeah, I think Sonya may be close, but I don't think her return as predicted yet as
I will say
lately.
I think 2 out of the last 3 years, uh, Mickey James has just made like a one-off appearance, and
Yeah,
now that Nick Aldis is working for the company, I mean, maybe she comes back for another one-off. But
Mickey sort of recently popped up in OVW, Al Snow's promotion, but that wouldn't preclude her from jumping on that one time. Yeah, she showed up with the Impact World Title, women's title, a couple years ago.
bizarre. That was really weird.
Yeah, that was crazy times. Like I couldn't imagine that happening now. But
That
who
was when
knows?
Vince was in charge, and I was like, he's never done anything like that, where he's allowed somebody else to have from another organization to,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was.
sort of bring that title. I mean, unless they had a working relationship, like they did that very briefly with the NWA during the Monday Night Wars, like that. That was strange. But anyway,
We don't, no one really knows what Sasha's communications with either promotion have been. Lots of online journalists have reported that she was asking for money comparable to Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, the top highest paid. Um, there has been opinions ranging from she's the number one women's talent in wrestling, the most universal, star out there, to hey, Becky and Charlotte have been doing the work for the last year and a half, and Sasha left her contract. I think she was. I had no problem with her leaving if she felt like she was not being treated right. That's a completely different situation. But if you were WWE, would you pay top dollar, if not $1 higher than your highest paid women talent to Sasha Banks to get her back?
I think it would depend on what the pay scale looked like. I mean, I don't know what the deal is for their highest paid people, and so it's possible the answer would be absolutely yes, and I would in fact pay significantly more. It's also possible that I would say probably not, and I think it's slightly complicated by the fact that TKO Endeavor has been in a bit of a sort of I don't want to say cost cutting mode, but certainly they have been looking to streamline certain things. And so I think whereas if this is 2 years ago, before the merger and before they were about to merge, I think that there might have been a little more leeway or options available to make something like this happen. But let me ask you this, because I want to kind of refocus the conversation to get to the point here. How many people do you think? How many women could plausibly be the winner of the Royal Rumble, do you think? Who would they be?
Well, let's just do the list. Okay. I think Becky is obviously plausible. They've been teasing this with Rhea. I think you can still do that without Becky winning. And again, you have the luxury of Elimination Chamber can also add the other competitor to the other title. Becky's plausible. Bayley is certainly plausible. I think if you want to pull the trigger and if she's ready and you want to debut her, Jade is plausible. That would make a big splash. I think there's another member of Damage Control. If it's I don't know if it's Asuka or if it's Kari Zane. I think that's plausible that one of them, if you're not necessarily going to go the Bayley route, and then I think a wild card is someone like well, not to win the Rumble, but yeah, the list is small. We're talking three to four women. I think Nia Jax is plausible, but not likely. Who do you have on your list? And how many? How deep is yours?
I think certainly Jade would be an interesting one, but I think that the possibility is remote just from the standpoint of, like you said, is she ready? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's possible. I had her in mind as a dark horse, but it's
The best place I think to debut Jade is the night after WrestleMania.
I would probably wait at this point until then. I think that to me, there are probably 3 names that realistically could win it. And it would be Becky, Bayley, and I just realized they all start with B, Bianca. I would say
Yeah.
of those 3,
Those are your top three. Those are your top 3 female wrestlers, basically, as far as name recognition.
I put Rhea in that mix at this point. I think she's
right.
really
who aren't champions. Yeah.
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 And I think of those, the only reason I think Bianca is kind of a distant third, at least right now, maybe I'll have a different opinion if they do something on SmackDown, is just that I think that with Bailey and Becky, you have two really interesting potential stories, especially Bailey.
Yeah.
I will say, they laid the groundwork a little bit on Raw last night for Becky to sort of have a perspective on why it's important for her to win the Rumble and sort of what she's trying to prove. And I think that all that's great. Bailey to me is much more interesting. And I could see either a scenario where she wins the Rumble and it's sort of I don't want to say like a reverse Batista situation where she is, planning on going after Rhea because that's the game plan, is to get all the titles to Damage Control, and then something happens and she's like, actually, I'm going to challenge Io Scott, and then things fall apart from there. I could also see it going where she's about to win, and that's when they turn on her, and then over the next couple of months, things sort of devolve before we get to WrestleMania. But I don't know. It's definitely the destination in my mind. The destination is not in doubt. The pace to get to that destination, that is what I'm not sure about. But I think the Royal Rumble will clarify that instantaneously. But I think if it's somebody other than those three people, putting aside Jade for a moment, who's sort of a different category, but if it's somebody other than Bianca, Bailey, or Becky Lynch, I will be surprised because I don't think there's anybody who is likely to be a returning person who will win. I don't think that they would let Liv win. I just think that the type of person, see if you agree with this, the type of person who typically would fit the mold of someone who is a returning performer who wins the Rumble the night they return is somebody who is usually has a more dominant character and or is a very established past champion. So somebody like Edge or somebody like John Cena or somebody like Brock Lesnar. People in sort of those categories.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rhea fits the bill in that scenario. If she wasn't champion, and
correct, or Charlotte Flair or somebody like that, who obviously Charlotte won't be in the Rumble this year, but I mean, someone like that who is, comes in at 28 or something, and then it's like, oh, okay, so this person. So I don't think they would let Liv do that. Although, if I remember right, she was in the final three last year, I think. But I don't think I don't think so, but we'll see. So anyway, I think it's a short list, bottom line. And if I had to pick a winner, I would love for it to be Bailey. But I think because they have options to get to the same destination using other paths, they won't have Bailey win. Oh man, I'll say Becky. I think Becky wins.
Not Mandy Rose as Cheats is chiming in there. Toxic Attraction.
That would be interesting, but I don't think so.
Yeah, speaking of the women, news that broke this week that Cora Jade tore her ACL again, man, at a house show for NXT this past Saturday. 8-9 months on the shelf. Cora's been a top NXT superstar, on the cusp. Probably could have fit her into the main roster. They probably were going to. She's young and she's really good, and now she's back on the shelf for a long time. We wish her the best. NXT stars though that could show up. You got your Nikita Lyons, who we've been waiting for a while. You've got Tiffany Stratton, all of whom who I think are ready for the main roster. We could, and there we go, another returning Raquel Rodriguez. I think that might be like the sort of, she might be like, they're going to try to make her like the big return. It may be without Naomi, but like that sort of dominant person to come back. That's how they sort of build Raquel. Who could come out. I could see Raquel eliminating, Nia Jax or something like that. But yeah, I think Nia's gonna make some noise in this. They are surprisingly pushing Nia more than I thought they were going to. And with having her beat Becky the other week, yet Becky is right there getting in Rhea's face, shows that, Nia is probably not someone they're going to put in a main event picture, but she'll just be a bully. That I have said this for months. I hope the person who does come out in next WrestleMania to put Nia in her place is Jade Cargill. Jade and Nia would be a great way to introduce Jade to the main roster by having her take this bully out, establish a face character for her, which I think is the best way to go for her. All right. Yep. Any other thoughts? We'll move to the men. Yeah. Let's go to the men's side. This is
same question. So how many people are on that list that could plausibly win? I think it's a very short list.
There's definitely two. And man, I think this might be even a shorter list than the women. I think the really just partly by being sort of being not being in the know, but being aware that, following the storylines. If you follow storylines and you follow Twitter at all, there's like two options. And I think they're the two best options. And that's Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, the two guys who are currently sort of feuding with, there is a third. There is a third, I suppose. There is a third. We have to acknowledge a third. See the problem. Now, I'm guessing we have the same third in mind, and it's not. Is it? I mean, I think Brock Lesnar returns to the Royal Rumble.
No, the third that I have in mind is Dwayne.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, Brock is returning, and
he's not going to win,
and that would be huge. I think Brock. I hope there's four people who can win the Rumble. There's CM Punk. There's Cody Rhodes. There's Dwayne Johnson. And there is Gunther. I don't think so, but Gunther had no business.
I have a whole plan for him. I know it's a
good plan for him. Good.
Two good plans. One A or B, depending on. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Neither one of those have him winning the Royal Rumble. Am I correct? Or
correct? Neither one have him winning the Royal Rumble.
Okay, so my point about Brock is
he will win, but not this year.
Brock, the music hits number 14. 21, 2, who knows? That music hits. That place comes unglued when Brock Lesnar comes out. Mm-hmm. Every time. He's going to get upstaged by Dwayne Johnson. I have a hard time seeing that. But so tell me how they managed to have those two enormous entries. I don't think The Rock's going to be, well,
it's possible that The Rock, we're not going to see The Rock again in WWE. That's absolutely possible. We're sort of basing it on The Rock making a statement that implicitly suggested that he was going to go after the head of the table. We haven't seen him since. The only reason that I think there is a chance of that is that if it had been something where it was just a one-off thing where either The Rock just decided to say it to be cheeky or it was for the benefit of the crowd that he was performing in front of, I don't think you would have seen them do interview segments on SmackDown where it was brought up, to Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And have Paul Heyman cut a lengthy, basically a lengthy promo on The Rock. I think if it had been something that was okay, that was just fun for tonight, then they wouldn't have resuscitated that story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is likely that he's going to, at some point, he's going to get involved. The question, so to get back to the core question of who wins the men's Royal Rumble, I think you've got Cody as a possibility, of course.
I mean, that has been sort of seemingly the template for the last 2 years.
Yeah. CM Punk,
which has been the template seemingly for the last 6 weeks. Yeah.
Right. The Rock. And that, to me, if it is anyone other than those three guys, I will be genuinely very surprised, bordering on shocked. And the key here is this. Gun to my head, I would say it's CM Punk. I think that's how you get to Seth versus CM Punk.
Yep.
And you can get to The Rock versus Roman, or if you wanted to, you could get it to Cody and Roman another way. Although I think there's more of a straight shot if it's The Rock and Roman. And I think the way that works quite simply is Rock enters the Royal Rumble probably very late. Some combination of bloodline people are in the match. They immediately attack him through some underhanded tactic. Maybe Jimmy's already been eliminated and, from outside, whatever. But it's very easy. So he doesn't have to win the Rumble. And also the other thing about that is, my personal opinion, I don't think you want to spend, for lack of a better word, the Royal Rumble winner title on somebody who is done after this match. In other words, after he main events WrestleMania, he's gone.
Yep.
If Punk does it, he's at least there for some period of years. If it's Cody Rhodes, obviously he's a long-term person. If it's Gunther, obviously long-term guy, and several others. So with that being said, I would say Punk probably wins. I think he goes after the title, Rollins title. He main events probably night one of WrestleMania, gets his career dream or whatever, even though it's night one. And then you can still get The Rock and Roman night two. The obvious question, though, is what do you do with Cody?
I mean, Cody's path, I agree. I think CM Punk, I think the way they've been teasing it, building it, I think Punk is actually going to win the Rumble, which would say, well, how is Cody going to get to Roman? I think the easiest answer is at Elimination Chamber, the 6 participants are 3 from Raw, 3 for SmackDown. Somehow that's the combination,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be 5 from SmackDown and Cody. I think you have some mix it up. I don't know how they're going to explain sort of that brand. I mean, give each brand the opportunity to put forth a somebody, but Cody's path, with the Elimination Chamber, now is a way to get to a world title picture if you don't win the Royal Rumble for WrestleMania.
See if you agree with this. While from a short-term perspective, the best outcome is Rock versus Roman, however you get there. Rock versus Roman in the main event of WrestleMania Night 2. No question about that. We talked about it. Biggest match you could do, blah, blah, blah. Long-term, it is better for Cody to be in that spot this year.
Definitely. I want Cody to beat Roman at WrestleMania this year. I want to see Cody complete the story.
I think he will. Story. I don't know I'm still not sure it's going to be this year, but I think he's going to.
He's absolutely going to. Having it be, I think if you don't do it this year after not doing it last year, I don't think the shine is off him on any level, but the shine of the story starts getting a little more faded.
0 to 10. What is your anger level if they did this? Cody wins his second consecutive Rumble, something they've talked up a lot on Raw, which that makes Cody seem plausible. That's why he's in that category. It's like, they're raising a lot of first guy to win, back-to-back Rumbles since Austin or whoever.
Punk has been announced for Elimination Chamber, but not in the EC match. So he can still be there. He's not, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So scale 0 to 10. Cody wins the Rumble and then loses again to Roman at WrestleMania. What's the anger level?
It would be an 11. But I thought you were going to ask me.
Look, unless Vince McMahon and I are booking the show, I don't think you have to worry about that outcome.
I know. I thought you were going to say something different because I say him winning the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, facing Roman and then losing again. It would be an 11 out of 10. But that's second only to if Cody beats Roman at WrestleMania, wins the title. And I thought you were going to say if Priest cashes in on Cody, then it'd be then it'd be a 500. Then it'd be a 500.
That would actually, I like that.
It would be a 500 if that's the case.
I don't know what they're going to do with Judgment Day either, but we can talk about that another time. But because that's a whole thing where they've invested a lot of capital in that group in terms of time on TV.
Yeah.
But right now there's no kind of clear direction for where they're going to wind up. Like any of them, any of them are going to
The
wind up. Because
only
like
the only thing that matters in Judgment Day right now is R-Truth.
yeah, he's great.
He is
He's
he,
really good.
he is doing arguably some of the best work of his career, and that's saying a lot because he's had
Yeah.
some fantastic moments. He is real. I mean, he is now. He's like doing what Sammy did with the Bloodline, if not maybe even a little. It's not as dramatic, but arguably it's better because of the comp.
It might be funnier.
It's funnier.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. Yeah, because Sammy, there was a whole.
Yeah,
that was a fully formed character.
We were saying Emmy consideration for that storyline. Yes, it's funnier, which in a way is like, you know, to some would be it's overall makes me feel better about it because it's hilarious.
Yeah. So bottom line, who are you picking for the 2 Rumble winners?
Okay, I am picking, just to be a little bit of a contrarian, I'm going to say Becky Lynch, and I'm going to say CM Punk. Yeah, I think Becky and CM Punk. I would love Bailey.
How is that being a contrarian? Those are my picks.
I thought you said Bailey and CM Punk.
No, Bailey is more interesting to me.
But you think Becky?
But the reason I'm picking Becky is I think they can still do the same storyline with Bailey without her winning.
Yeah.
Whereas Becky would need to win for her storyline to come through.
Yeah, I think you and I are lined up on that. I think maybe those are the 2 betting favorites at the moment too, probably, or Becky and CM Punk. So we're not really going against the grain at all. But in just our last remaining moments here, let's talk. Who do you like? Who do you want to see return? Who do you think will return at the Royal Rumble men's?
I'm not sure about Sheamus, to be honest with you. I think that's an obvious one, but I don't know what his contract status is, and if it's a situation where they are going to let that contract expire, they obviously wouldn't bring him back to the Rumble and then have him work for 2 more months or whatever it is. I would say
Samoa Joe and Io Sky win the Rumble. Someone's being a joker.
There is a wild conspiracy theory that MJF is going to be in the Rumble. I say no way. He resigned.
If his contract did not get re-signed, then I'd say shit, he may very well maybe. But
I will say I think there
year.
is at least a slight chance that someone like Okada could be in the men's Royal Rumble.
Sure. And
as far as WWE guys coming back, I mean, so many have just come back. I don't know if there's anybody else. I mean, maybe they'll do the Sean Spears thing again where he comes in at number 10 because he just got released. I don't know, maybe.
The truth of the matter is, to anyone, Big E's not coming back. I mean, I don't predict. I think Big E's injury is too serious, and I don't know if he's totally done, but
that was my plan B for Gunther. I think Gunther, the obvious thing to do, I think, is have him and Brock, which would be awesome. But there's also a scenario where Imperium has been feuding a lot with the New Day guys, and if Big E were coming back, the thing to do would be Big E comes back. Big E is the guy who beats Gunther for the Intercontinental title. Credible, former world champion, all that stuff. And then maybe at WrestleMania, you have a 6-man New Day versus Imperium, which I think would be fantastic. But that, as you said, that's such a serious injury that I don't know if that's possible. But wishful thinking, if Big E is able to come back, I think that would be a great way for him to return and to be the guy who ultimately ends that record title reign. So
my prediction in that vein, that line for, I would love to see that 6-man. I think that might be a SummerSlam, maybe Survivor Series next year if Big E comes back. No, I think Brock comes back. Brock and Gunther have their business. One of them maybe costs them or eliminates the other. But I do think Sheamus does return, just from some of the things I've been hearing. He's ready. I think Sheamus defeats Gunther at Elimination Chamber, and then Brock and Gunther can have that big match at WrestleMania that we want to see without the weirdness of like Brock's going for the Intercontinental title. Like that.
Yeah, that would be weird.
So I think he's Gunther has established himself as the greatest Intercontinental Champion ever. He's going to, but he has this encounter not only with Brock at the Royal Rumble, but also Sheamus, who is the man. Sheamus is the guy who he had classic matches with him last year before he got hurt,
Yeah.
and B, there's that storyline of Sheamus
Exactly.
needing the IC title to
Right.
complete the Super Slam Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So I think if you
that would be cool. Sheamus winning it, I think that would also be great.
We've talked for weeks as to like it's not who's going to beat him, it's who's worthy of beating him. A returning Sheamus completing that cycle, that's so worthy enough.
Yeah.
I think
as much as I was, had gotten around to the idea and was into like Chad Gable, the way they had pushed him for a little while, a long time ago now, I was like, that could be interesting. That would be interesting. I think that you hit the nail on the head. Whether it's somebody like Big E or somebody like Sheamus, somebody who is returning and is a former world champion, beating Gunther does not diminish Gunther. And I think that is crucial because obviously Gunther is the guy going into WrestleMania next year. He's either going to be the world champion or he is going to be challenging for the world championship and probably winning it at WrestleMania, one or the other.
Yeah. Plus, I want to see Gunther beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. If you're going to put them together, Gunther should definitely go over
for sure, and he will if they have that match. Yeah.
Well, we covered it all in exactly an hour. That's excellent. I mean, it's 2 weeks away. I wish it was this weekend. Is Royal Rumble a Saturday or a Sunday?
It is a Saturday.
Oh, so
I love it.
So great. And we still have to deal with Elimination Chamber and that 1:30 a.m. start time. But man, Backlash in France.
I was going to say, what time is that going to be?
That's going to be a 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock show on a Saturday. Perfect. It's all.
If it's on Saturday, I'm good.
Even if it's on Sunday, it's going to be earlier in the day because France is 5 hours ahead.
Did we figure out when Perth is? Did we figure out when that is going to be? I forget.
What time it's going to be at?
Yeah, we talked about.
I mean, it's going to go if it goes off any time between 5 and 7 p.m. Australia time, which is where it would go off. It's going to be middle of the night here. There's no other way around it. You know. It's great. Well, in case we don't get to it next week, in case we don't have a show next week, we're both picking CM Punk. We're both picking Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
We're both picking Roman Reigns. We're both picking Logan Paul. And I mean, there'll be a match probably added, a women's match, maybe something added, coming off of SmackDown and Raw this week. So,
what's funny that about all our picks being the same. I actually think that Triple H has done a really, really good job, better than most years probably, of having the outcome of the Royal Rumbles be a little bit unpredictable. Like they're usually going into it, it's like it's going to be this person. You feel like you kind of know who it is, and if it's not person X, it's going to be a surprise. This year, like I said, I mean, I think there's a finite number of names, but I could see any of those folks winning. And it's funny that we both landed on the same people, even though I do feel like the buildup has been really good in terms of, different people being potential winners.
It'll be interesting to see touted for next Monday. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes are going to face off in the ring and have some those promos.
Oh, Cody and Drew. There you go. That's your WrestleMania match. Cody and Drew.
If you had to find a spot for Cody.
Yeah.
God, I mean that feels less, but Drew's doing some of the best work of his career.
I think Drew, R-Truth aside, I think Drew has the best character on Raw right now. His character is really interesting.
No doubt about it. No, he's fared himself well against CM Punk and Cody. Yeah, interesting. So we'll wait and see. We'll talk about after Royal Rumble. We'll reconvene. We'll debrief. We'll figure it all out. And then we're really on the road to WrestleMania, and hope we can get a good run of shows. Hopefully our availability will link up. We can meet here on Tuesdays and talk about it. Next week we'll promote the Hardywood show more, but for now that's about it. We did an hour 4. It was great having you on. So follow us on YouTube, Wrestling Chat with Friends, the group. Follow us on Facebook group, Wrestling Chat with Friends. Follow us on X at WCWF Pod. For Bork Laser, I'm AJ the Collector. Thanks so much. Enjoy the next week's of wrestling. We'll see you next week.